One second, I'll come.
We invite you. Alrighty. Welcome everybody.
Hi. Week 1, we're all here. Congrats for making it.
Yep. Alrighty. So welcome to the first week of the Ruby on Rails course. The goal is to be able to build a complex web app. A lot of you have already done the first step with your assignments you submitted. Congratulations. Don't worry about having to write down everything. I'll post these slides at the end, as well as I'm also recording the lectures. So try to just focus on the concepts, ask questions if you're confused. This is a chance for us to talk and collaborate and work together. Okay? So the staff, this is me. I'm the instructor. I actually just moved here from San Francisco about a week ago. In San Francisco, I work for a company called ProsperWorks. It's about 100 people. We use Ruby on Rails as our main framework. On the front end, we also use Ember.js. It's similar to Angular or React. We're about 100 people. 20 of us are engineers. It's a fast-moving operation. It's a lot of fun. We also use on our backend PostgreSQL, which we'll be using for this class. We also use Redis and Elasticsearch, just other data stores, databases. Outside of working, I like to dance a lot. This is a shameless plug for coming to dance. So I like to do what's called bachata dancing. It's Dominican. If any of you want to learn, there's a spot to go here in Vietnam. Please come with me. I'll happy to teach you. So if any of you want to learn not just how to do Ruby on Rails, but also how to dance, this is a great chance to learn. Yeah, come on in, guys. Make yourself at home. We're just getting started. So hopefully we're having a fun 8 weeks. This is a chance for all of us to get to know one another and hang out. So hopefully everyone feels comfortable in this class and gets a chance to meet other people as well and may have a good time. We're lucky to have 3 great teaching assistants for this class. They're all really wonderful. Really use them a lot. Ask them questions. They'll be working with all of us on the labs and the assignments. They've all gone through the course already, and so they have a lot of expertise on the stuff that we're learning. And so really, don't be afraid to ask them any questions that you may have. I'll give them a chance to introduce themselves. They've been doing a lot of hard work, but we'll start with Loy.
Hey everyone. I'm Loy. I've seen all your submissions. They're really good. I hope I can learn some stuff from you guys. And I just enjoy this experience together because I personally went through the course in Hanoi when I was living there. And I just know that I'm not sure, I know a lot of you guys are really good already, right? But the thing is, we can all learn from other people, and also just, practice makes perfect, So if you guys are learning Rails, then a good way to get good at it, Ruby and Rails, is just do a bunch of projects. And if you do the projects, then, we're all going to learn together, and we're going to add some stuff to our resume, and then one day we're going to make a lot of money. So yeah, we'll talk more in the future.
Awesome, thanks, Loy.
Hi everyone, my name is Tang. I was Ruby student last year, and this is the first time I come as a TA for the school. So for me, it's always fun to meet new people and learn new things because all class they have different exciting final projects coming on, and final demo days is always awesome to me. So it's hope we have a good time together, and just ask me any question. Yeah.
Thanks. And again, please ask them questions. They all have a lot of expertise, and they're all really here to help you guys learn. With that, yeah, that's Charles. Sorry.
I'm Charles. I'm one of the co-founders of Twitter School, and I taught this class a long time ago. You're lucky to have Neeraj instead of me, your teacher. But yeah, I run Twitter School, so if you have any questions about Twitter School, if you have questions about other classes, about administrative things, you can email me anytime. I'm also in the Slack group too. Any questions?
And he's in the Facebook group too, so if you want to just ping him messages, go for it. Great, so let's go ahead and do introductions amongst small groups, get a chance to know each other. So why don't we form small groups, about 5 people. So kind of get together in groups and go ahead and introduce yourself, what you do, and then your favorite technologies to work with. Does that make sense? So why don't we have like maybe you 5 talk work together, and then we'll have you 5.
So I asked everyone to post the photos. A lot of people are doing it.
Hello. Looking for Twitter school?
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Let's go ahead and continue if we can. All right, so hopefully everyone got to meet the people around them. We're spending 8 weeks together, so get to know everyone around you. We're here to be, a family, get to know one another, and hang out. All right, so let's do just a quick overview of logistics for this class, just so everyone's on the same page, so we all have a great understanding. 8 weeks course. Congrats. This is week 1. Mondays will be a lecture, and we'll basically go through some slides, have some discussions, and there'll be some walkthrough of the code. Again, I'll record all of these lectures, so don't have to worry about trying to write everything down. Try to just more pay attention and ask questions if you're confused. On Wednesday, we'll have a lab. It's very hands-on, and the goal is for you to kind of demonstrate what we talk about in the lecture. So the lecture, I'll cover some concepts, I'll show it to you, and the lab, though, is a chance for you to really get hands-on and try it in a small group. For the lab, actually, we're doing pair programming. How many of you are familiar with pair programming? Some. Okay. Seems like most of you have some experience with it, but essentially it's 2 of you working together. One person types, the other person talks, and you work on an assignment, and then you switch. Right? And it's important that you both do both parts, right? So both people should take a turn typing and speaking, and then switching, and so that way you both get a chance to learn from one another, to kind of bounce ideas off each other. It's a good chance to kind of work together and go through problems. The labs, again, challenge yourself, push yourself. If you're confused, obviously ask us, ask the TAs, we're here to help you. But also push yourself and challenge yourself, because that's how you learn, right? It's one thing to look at someone and have them show you how to do it, and it makes sense. But if you have to actually do it yourself and you've never done it before, then it's much more difficult, right? So really, take on challenges, keep doing things. But if you're really stuck, ask us, we're here to help you. On Saturday, we may have some optional tutorials. We're still trying to figure these out. These may be a chance for us to kind of help you with your homework, or maybe cover side topics that aren't part of the curriculum necessarily, but if people have an interest in a certain thing, we can talk about it. We'll probably send out a survey sometime this week to gauge interest in the Saturday sessions. So just fill out the survey, and we'll kind of go from there and see if there's an interest in doing that sort of thing. On Sunday, at midnight, homework is due. Please get it in on time. It gives us a chance to grade it. And it's an 8-week course. We're going to move very quickly. And so if you slip or fall behind, we're moving at a fast pace. And so it kind of bleeds into the next week. And if you were behind 2 weeks, that's already a fourth of the course. That's a big deal. So please turn it in on midnight on time. Does that all make sense to everyone? Sweet. So in terms of the assignments, weeks 1 through 3, there will be assignments. You have to complete them. You can complete them in a group or by yourself, but you have to submit an individual assignment. Similar to the pre-work, right? You pushed it to GitHub, you pushed it to Heroku. The TAs came in and gave you comments on your GitHub through issues, right? Similar thing. Then in week 4, we'll start to form groups, and these groups will be a maximum of 3 people. We'll form together, and you work on this group project from weeks 4 through 8. The ideas come from you guys. We're here to help you kind of form the ideas, make sure it's not too ambitious or it's not too small. It's like the right amount for the group. But the ideas really come from you guys. And so the reason that we mention it now is it's a chance to start thinking about ideas, right? There's no pressure. Don't have to come up with an idea yet. But maybe if you're biking to work, maybe think about an idea in the back of your mind. Something kind of just start playing around with. You also have to form a group. And so you maybe want to start thinking about who you want to work with. You can work with your friends, or maybe you can work with someone who has expertise in a certain area. And so maybe someone in the class is really good at Bootstrap and JS, and you want to learn more about that. And so you choose to work with them on the project, right? Just an idea. So start thinking, start getting to know one another, so, start making friends, and then we can form these groups in week 4. Again, no pressure, but just something to start thinking about, as the next few weeks go on. The last week is the exciting time. We'll have a demo here in the lab. And this is a chance for all the hard work to showcase itself. Each team will come up, give a presentation, kind of a walkthrough of what they've built, and then maybe answer some questions. This is a really exciting day. All the hard work we've learned, all the stuff that we've kind of grinded through together will come out in this day. And then there'll probably be a public demo day on week 9, so after the course. We're sure trying to, again, determine the exact logistics. Maybe everyone, if you want to present, maybe we'll have everyone present. Maybe we'll have just a few teams present. Again, pretty flexible on this. We'll kind of figure this out as things go on. But it's another cool chance to show off all the cool work that we've done here, and then also encourage the next round of people to come join, right? A lot of times you see these cool demo days, people get inspired, and then they come join the class as well. And that's all really exciting. All right, the fun part, class rules. You must come to every class. This is just because it's only 8 weeks, which is 16 classes, and so it's really a chance to move quickly and learn a lot. But we really ask that you come to class, you respect the time that everyone else puts in, and you respect the time you yourself have put in already into this class. We say maximum 2 excused absences. If you have to miss, just let me know in advance. It doesn't mean you can ask me later if you miss, but if you know in advance you're going to miss, just let me know. You must be on time to class. That's just, again, because we have 2 hours. We want to move quickly. And so please come early. We'll be here around 6:30 every week, trying to get set up. Thanks help for those who helped set up today. But please just try to make your best effort to come early. If you want to come even earlier, we're across the street in the office. We'll be there all day. So if you want to come extra early and chat or work on something, enjoy the AC, come on by. You must submit homework by midnight Sunday. Again, we really enforce this hard deadline so that we can then begin the next week and keep moving. It's also a chance for the TAs to actually get a chance to look at things. You're allowed 1 24-hour extension on homework, and that's just, things come up. We want to work with you. We want to be flexible. But if you fall behind too much, then it's hard to catch up. And then when your team needs you for the group project, you're already behind on the homework, and that just slows things down. So really just, try to get it in on time, midnight. The last one is, I guess, a coder school thing. You must be honest. Be honest with yourself. If you don't know something, admit it, ask questions, talk to people. If you don't know what we're talking about here, raise your hand, ask questions. I'll try to be honest with you, share with you as much as I know. And you'll learn the most if you're honest with yourself about how much you know and how much you don't know. This is just up here. If you're breaking any of the rules, you'll be kicked out of the class. We're not going to kick anyone out, but just so you know, we're all here to respect each other's time. Sounds like that won't be an issue. All right, how to get help. We have the Slack group. Hopefully everyone has joined the Slack group. This is a great chance to ask questions, both of the TAs and of each other. Imagine you're working on a really, you have a hard problem, you spend a few hours working on it, and you come up with a solution, right? Maybe someone else is facing the same issue. And so if you share your results in the Slack group, it's a chance for us to give you congratulations or sympathy, but then also someone else may have the same issue. And so if they see what you've done in the Slack group, they can maybe save some time as well. So please, guys, use the Slack group as much as possible. It's fantastic. You can search in there. It offers, text searching. Who has not used Slack before? Okay. So if you have questions, we can talk about it. But it seems like everyone knows how to use Slack, which is great. They have a great mobile app, desktop app. I encourage you to download all of it. definitely use it. There's also a Facebook group. You know, again, you know, maybe not as much as questions that need an immediate response, but cool tips, cool websites, meetups that are happening. Also, chance for us to get to know each other outside of the class, see what's going on. Definitely, be social. Use these groups. These groups are here for all of us to learn and get to know one another. So please use them as much as possible. Ask questions. Ask questions during and after class. We'll stick around and answer questions. If you have questions, feel free to grab the TA, call them over, ask me any questions. We're all here for you to learn. And there's an email. I'm not quite sure who answers that email actually. So if you email that, you may get a response. Who knows? I guess that's use these two. Don't use them. All right. So some tips that we found to be useful in previous classes, mainly from Charles and Harley. Start the homework early. Right? It's due Sunday night. Don't start it Sunday, because if you get stuck or have a question, it'd be harder to get help. Really start early. Get a chance to play around with it. A lot of times we also have optional components, and so it gives you just more of a chance to do the optional components as well. We recommend a breadth-first approach. So rather than spend a few hours and get really far down one certain area, and then you maybe get frustrated and you lose your motivation, look at the whole project, see the whole part of it, look at each part of it. Maybe don't focus too much on one spot initially. Do it all, and then go back and you can clean it up. You can add in better formatting. You can add in more design. But just don't get frustrated down a certain path and lose motivation. So think about the whole project at the same time. Feel free to work together. By all means, please work together, work with each other. Meet up outside of here at a coffee shop. You can come to the office. We still have to submit your own assignment. So everyone has to still push to Heroku and push to GitHub. But it's a chance to work with one another. Share ideas, maybe get less frustrated if you have some frustrations, and bounce ideas off one another. Definitely, it's a good chance to also get to hang out and meet other people as well. Share your discoveries, like I was saying. If you come up with something that maybe you had a roadblock or a problem and you solved it, that's great. Share it so that other people then know, how to learn from that. Right? The goal of this class is to complete the assignments and complete a project, but it's also to learn. Right? And you want to learn as much as possible about Ruby and Ruby on Rails. And if we share our discoveries, it's a chance to not only learn the mistakes we've made, but also from the mistakes of others. And that just means more chances to learn for everyone. All right, there is no such thing as a stupid question. Please, if you have a question, ask. Don't be shy. If you're too shy to ask in the big group, we may have small discussions or grab the TA and ask him. But please don't be afraid to ask questions at all. Don't be shy. Complete the optionals. The reason that they're optional is, if you're running late or you're feeling stressed out about it, it's not mandatory. But the optionals is a chance to learn, to push yourself. It's just another chance to learn. And so we really recommend as much as you can to complete the optionals. They're a lot of fun. What's also really fascinating and exciting is when students not only complete the requirements, but then also make it look nice. They'll add in a really nice design. They'll update the UI. They'll add some personality into it. And that just makes it more fun for you, right? So don't be afraid to take the project and add on to it. If you see, the requirements are there, but there's other things you like as well, add them in. Play around with it. It's all for fun. The requirements are just simply to demonstrate certain things that you've learned that week. But there's nothing stopping you from doing more than just that. And that's just a chance to learn more and get more feedback from the TAs. This last one is an acronym I like. What you put in is what you get. So if you push yourself, you try more things, you put yourself out there, you'll learn more. I promise to put myself out there as much as I can and hope you guys learn. And then, return, if you put yourself out there as much as possible, you'll learn as much as you can. So again, just take the most of this class. Alrighty, are there any questions on the non-fun stuff, on the logistics, on the expectations? Is everyone clear on all those things? Yeah, it's a good question. When is homework due? Who can answer that? Midnight Sunday. What week do we start the group project? Before. When is homework due again? Sunday at midnight. All right. How many classes are you allowed to miss? Max 2, right? Excuse. Hopefully at 0 for everyone. All right. We're all good? Thumbs up from everyone? Everyone agrees? Yeah? Everyone are here? Okay. Fantastic. So welcome to Rails. So you may be asking, why Ruby? Just quick show of hands, how many of you have used Ruby before this course, before the pre-work? How many of you have used Ruby before? Okay, so just a few. So most of us are pretty new to Ruby. Ruby is fantastic because it's meant to be written for developer happiness. It's meant to be written so that we can type things out really quickly and make it work. And there's a lot that it does. So a few things to cover. I'm actually going to start doing some demo. So in Ruby, everything is an object. And actually, let's... All right. So in Ruby, everything is an object. So let's just do some cool things here. So this is just an interactive Ruby terminal, right? So puts yeah. Let me refresh this. All right. Cool. So here we have puts hello world, right? Puts is just a simple the print command. You also can do p hello world, and the difference is that p calls inspect, right? So p calls inspect. So let's say you have hello, right? New line character world. If you were to do just p, right, it actually prints out the literal text, right? It's an inspection call. But if you print out puts, what do you expect is going to happen? Exactly, 2 lines. Cool. So everything is an object. So we have 1, right? It's a string. Great. 1.class is a fixed num, right? Let's see the guide here. So everything is treated as a class. So we even have 1.object ID. So here you can call object ID on any object, whether it's a number or a string, and it'll print out for you the location in the memory. So strings are objects, right? So here we have 1.object_id is a string. If we were to do it again, what do you think is going to happen? Right? They're different. So every string is its own object. And that's just Ruby, just the way Ruby works. What's neat about Ruby, so I'll link after the slides this Ruby guide. Feel free to walk through a little bit. You can also play around with Ruby in the terminal. So can everyone see that? If you type in IRB, it stands for Interactive Ruby, and you can do the same thing. You can start playing around with Ruby here and doing some commands, which is pretty neat. So another quick overview for Ruby is it's very useful for arrays, sets, and hashes. And all of those kind of share a lot of methods. So, right, let's say we have an array, right? We can populate it with some values. And in other languages, you'd have to call something like for, right? You would have to use something like for int I, something like that, right? With Ruby, you just call array.each, and it loops through each one, right? So if you do array.each, we can just say, oops, right? And it simply puts it out. And so .each is great because it loops through the array and does something with each object in that array. Same thing with a hash. So we could have a hash, and we can say, I'll just use some soccer examples. Right? Oops. right? We'll just give them some numbers. We can print out the hash, right? So we print out the hash, we'll get what it looks like here. And you can see here that it actually converts all these strings into symbols. You can see that. So if we wanted to, we could say, we could call hash at some symbol, right? And then it accesses it and it prints it out right there. Right? Or we can pass in something else, like Chelsea, right? And it'll print out nil. And so in Ruby, nil is essentially, when you can't find something. But if you actually think about, so nil, right? Nil is just the object. Does it have a class? Yes, right? In Ruby, everything has an object. So even nil has its own class, nil class. We can print out with hashes a lot of different things. You can print out just the values of a hash, and here we'll print out 1, 2, and 5. You can print out just the keys, right? So Ruby provides lots of functionality around hashes, strings, arrays, and sets. What's really cool is, let's say you have some words, and we'll first do this, right? So we'll have 1, 2, and 3, right? If you wanted to combine the words into a sentence, right, how would you do that? Well, you could do words.each, you could have some sentence sort of, right, and then, right, or you just do words.join. And if we do that, we'll get a sentence, right? So Ruby provides a lot of different easy ways of doing things. So a lot of times in other languages, you have to think about things and make a lot of loops and do things on your own. Ruby is really useful because it does a lot of that for you. Ruby also has garbage collection, so you don't have to delete things once you're done. If you declare a variable and then never use it again, Ruby will collect it for you and clean up all that memory. So you don't have to worry about memory management. The other thing you'll notice is there aren't any types, right? I'm not saying integer, I'm not saying var, I'm not saying, right? I don't even have to do that. Everything is an object, so you don't have to declare types. So you can just start using variables, start using objects, and then once you're done with them, Ruby will go ahead and collect them for you with automatic garbage collection. Lastly, let's cover a few more things with maps. So let's say we have some numbers, right? Let's say I wanted to add up all these numbers together, right? Pretty basic. You can write nums, right? You can do each, and you can do some sort of thing within the each. Or you can do a reduce, and a reduce will go through and look at each object and do something with it. So you can say reduce, add in a block, and actually the way reduce works is it takes in the previous value and the new value, right? And so if we run that, we get 57, which is great. And sum plus equals is just the same thing as sum plus x, right? Just shorthand. You'll find in Ruby that there's a lot of shorthands for things, which makes things easy, right? So this is one way to do it. That's great. You also can just do it faster with Ruby, so you can do reduce. And there's an interesting syntax with Ruby, and this one is called the pretzel colon. It's the ampersand symbol with the colon. And it essentially will it'll perform this operation right here on each element in the array. So you can use also with map. So if you did nums.map, you can convert it to a float. Right? So if we convert each number to a float, you'll see here that it simply will take each object in the array and call 2f on it, and 2f is just a syntax for toFloat, and it'll print it out here. And similarly, you can do the same thing with reduce. There's some neat syntax here with this pretzel colon to convert it to add them all together. So Ruby is pretty powerful. There's a lot you can do with it. I recommend you. I'll link to this guide and encourage all of you to look through it later. Take a look at it. kind of walk through it, play around with IRB when you get a chance. It's interactive Ruby builder. Like we were saying, everything is an object. So here's just something to consider. This is kind of a fun one. The different classes, right? And everything is an object, so everything has a class. And so, for example, if you print out, like we're saying, one.class, you get a fixed num. Fixed num and integer are both subclasses of numeric, so they both kind of inherit all the numeric properties. And yeah, just go through this. So we'll link this to you so you guys can go through this at your own pace and check it out. Yeah, and these are just some more so saying enumerables are arrays, hashes, and sets, and they provide a lot of different functionality. So I covered just briefly map and reduce, but you can sample, which is to pick one. You can reverse them really easily. You can compact them, which is perform an operation on them. You can call unique on it. So a lot of built-in tools are given to you via Ruby, and it's a pretty powerful language. And what's neat about it is it very much reads like English, right? So a lot of languages read much more like a programming language, but with Ruby you can call .each on something, which is pretty self-explanatory if you look at it, right? You're looking at the code, you see .each, it kind of makes sense what that code's going to do. And so it's really hopefully you get a chance to play around with it and stuff. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and break out into our small groups again, the same groups we did introductions in. And why don't you go ahead and try to talk about what you think the pros and cons are of Rails. What are the benefits of Rails and what are the disadvantages of Rails? Okay, let's go ahead and break out into our small groups again. So the server will run Ruby code that uses Rails. No, it's fine. Rails was a framework property. So like Node.js, right? Node.js means stuff. Node.js frames like that. And package control and all that. So Rails is like Node.js. So that's what it is. It shares some similar content.
No, I haven't. I just like a lot of my friends are in industry, like they're like semi being asked for years. So it's really want to start to
Ruby is slow because it's interpreted. Right? So it's not applied it's also the French country, which has a lot of All right, everyone. Hopefully you all got a chance to at least discuss amongst yourselves what the benefits and disadvantages are of Ruby and what's Rails. Does anyone want to share what they think the advantages are of Rails? Why are we here to learn it? What are the advantages? Because it's popular. Yeah, that's definitely an advantage, right? Like, if a lot of people use it, then that's means that there's uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah, Ruby's a little bit different that way. Yeah. Any other thoughts on what the advantages of Rails?
So much magic.
So much magic. Yeah. Definitely. There's a lot of stuff. That's
Too much magic.
That's true. All right. So what are the other disadvantages? We said magic is an advantage and disadvantage. What's another disadvantage of Rails? Is it performance? Yeah. It's good. Yeah, that's definitely a concern with people is performance. So I compiled just a little bit of a list, but I thought, so pros, magic, it does a lot of stuff for you, which is fantastic. So you can get up and running really quickly. Lots of tools and libraries. And so in Ruby, a library is called a gem. You've already worked with gems on the pre-work. There's a lot of gems. People are always contributing and adding more gems. It's a very robust community. High adoption. It's pretty, big community. It's pretty popular. Heroku makes it so it's easy deployment, right? All of you are able to deploy to Heroku with as simple as just, Heroku push. It's pretty easy. There's a strong community, and so there's a chance for people to ask questions on Stack Overflow, meet up with other Rails developers. It always helps when there's people around you to help you and support you. Productivity and developer happiness. This is more about Ruby itself. Ruby was kind of designed to be easy for engineers and developers to work with. Most people would agree that it's pretty easy to write, fairly easy to read someone's code and understand what's going on, because Ruby kind of reads a lot like almost like a natural language, and so it makes developers sometimes happier than having to sit there and debug other languages. And it's opinionated, which means there's usually a right way to do things. That can be an advantage because a lot of times, it forces everyone down a similar path and it makes the code more similar. And if you do it the right way, it's meant to help you. But it also could be a disadvantage because if you don't agree with the opinion, then it sometimes is hard to work with. So the disadvantages are magic, like we said, right? If you don't know what's going on and it's not working, right? How do you fix it? Sometimes you're like, I did it, it looks right, but it's not working. What's going on, right? That's sometimes can be hard. Slow performance, like you mentioned, that's a concern. Because Ruby is not compiled, it's interpreted, and so it's interpreted at runtime, so that adds a cost to the performance. It's poor on multi-threading, so a lot of times you just need, everything's a single process. It can be difficult to leave, so active record is the way to communicate with the database. And a lot of companies that use Ruby on Rails use active record, and active record is hard to migrate off to a different system because it's very specific, and so it's hard if you want to change Rails how to leave. But hopefully, there's a lot of good pros, a lot of advantages. But it's always good to be aware about both sides of what it's good for and what it's not good for. A lot of companies have used Rails before. These are just some of them I found online. Some of these no longer use Rails. A lot of companies start off on Rails, and then at some point they switch off of Rails or start using other technologies as well. But it's definitely pretty popular in the community. I know my company uses Rails. A lot of companies in Silicon Valley use Rails. Does Tiny Pulse use Rails? Yeah. So there you go. So dependency management. We mentioned that there's gems, and the way Rails coordinates things is with the gem file. So literally, you just add one line into your gem file, and that library is now part of your code base. You can start to use it. The gem file also handles version control. So if someone updates a version of the gem, you can control whether or not you want that update as well in your application. So it kind of makes it easy to control which version. For those of you that have used Node, it's similar to NPM. It's a similar system for gems. This is an awesome thing to check out. Just a library of all awesome gems people have built over time. There's a lot of cool things people have done with Ruby, and so if you find yourself with some free time, it's worth checking out Awesome Ruby to see all the different gems people have created. Deployment is really easy. So as you all saw with the assignment before, a few commands, a free account, and you're up and running on Heroku, which is fantastic. You can create a website, push an app to it, and then have your friends check it out, start to give you feedback. So that's a really easy process, which makes it really easy to work with Ruby on Rails. It's very opinionated. There's usually a right way to do things, and that's great when you agree. So recommended technologies for Rails, ERB, which is embedded Ruby. We've seen that already with the different views. .html.erb. Ruby will take that file, embedded Ruby, and convert that into an HTML file, which the browser can then show and knows how to understand HTML. It's also popular to use CoffeeScript or JavaScript with Rails as the front end. Sass, which we'll be using as well. How many of you are familiar with Sass? Okay, so it's like CSS, but it's it offers more functionality, but it compiles down to CSS, so your normal browser can understand it. But it just makes it easier to kind of work with and understand, and we'll be using a lot of Sass in this course. And Rails is really popular with PostgreSQL. The default is SQLite, but most people will use PostgreSQL. It does provide more functionality than SQLite, so it's a more fully fledged database. It's constantly being worked on and improved. It has a lot of functionality. And Heroku makes it really easy to work with it, so that's kind of nice as well. All right, so this is just a bunch of information you probably don't need to read right now, but it's Rails architecture. If you want to take a look at, but the key components to look at is there's a database, right, which communicates with Active Record. So the way that you interact with the database is not directly, but you interact through Active Record, which controls all of our queries and all of our access to the database. And that happens usually through the controller. And then here's the client, it sends a request, the controller handles it. There's also a lot of views that get rendered back to the client. But the main points here to know are the database, Active Record controller, right? So these work a lot together. And then the client sends a request, and then comes back out to the view. The other big thing about Rails is MVC, Model View Controller. It actually kind of brought it back into popularity. Right, so here you kind of see the model is kind of our classes, our main persistence, our main business logic, right, the things that we really care about. The controller is kind of the interface between the model and the view. So it helps talk, passes things through, but the controller and the model do a lot of talking, and then they push all that information to the view. So a little more in depth here, we have the model, which is our heavy class. It's going to contain our relations, so it's going to tell us how one model relates to another model, right? If we have a user model, they could belong to a company. And Rails uses that, termination, those words a lot. User belongs to company, or company has many users. It's a way to define connections between different models. Also some validation, so you can say, these things are required. We must do these things before we can save the model. All of that goes into the model. Persistence, so it's in charge of working with Active Record to save things into the database. And then usually business logic as well will also go into the model. The views are just there to display the data. It's usually an HTML file. With Rails, it's usually html.erb, so that Rails can then compile that into an HTML file. Interactive elements, it's very common a lot of times to also add in a rich JavaScript framework, so something like Ember or Angular or Java or React. But you also can just use Bootstrap and pure JavaScript with a lot of helpers as well. So in this helper, there's number to currency. It's going to basically format this value. Just a lot of easy ways to format things nicely with Rails. And finally, we have controllers, which parse parameters, and then they call the appropriate model action. So they're really not supposed to contain that much logic. It's more about the interaction between the model and the view, but also error handling, making sure that requests are coming in. When we add in authentication, also make sure the user is authenticated properly before they can ask anything of the server. Make sure they're logged in. So that's just the architecture again. Model, view, controller. We work with that a lot, but it'll make more sense once we start to play around with it. What goes into where and how things kind of tie in together. Convention over configuration. There's usually a right way to do things. There's defaults, which seem very magical, but it makes things easy to get going and quickly. The final thing about Rails is dry. Don't repeat yourself. So it's very, emphasis on refactoring, pushing code into certain, sharing code a lot. And so you're not, copying, pasting a lot of code. Really want to, keep things separate and not repeat yourself. And finally, some pitfalls of Rails. It's easy to make mistakes when you're refactoring, so that's why tests are important, like we were talking about earlier. There is no really compiler that's going to tell you this is a typo or this is the wrong type or these things don't match. If you try to run it, it'll crash, and then you got to figure out why. And so that's why a lot of times unit testing is very important. And sometimes there are too many ways to do things, so sometimes it's a matter of trying to figure out what the right way of doing things are and going from there. Any questions on kind of high level to Rails? That was kind of just a lot of information. Great. All right, why don't we take just a 5-minute break, and then we'll go ahead and resume with the walkthrough of some stuff. So take a 5-minute break, and we'll meet back here in 5 minutes.